Well, the Bishop Police Department put out a press release late last week that begins based on inquiries from the press and the public and relative to other recent cases. The Bishop Police Department releases the following information. On April 25, 2013, the Bishop Police Department initiated an investigation into the suspected embezzlement of funds from the Inyo Body Shop in Bishop. Now, to date, investigators have conducted numerous interviews and served several search warrants for records going back as far as 2005. Now, the press release says the Bishop Police Department has determined that a substantial amount of monies were embezzled over a period of years. The investigation has since focused on Dolores K. Marsh, a former employee, as the primary person of interest, according to the press release. Now, at this point, the Bishop Police Department is trying to determine not only how much was stolen, but also at what time it was taken and where did the money go. Now, financial crimes of this nature, according to the press release, are extremely complex and require a line-by-line examination of funds flowing through the business. The press release states every stone the Bishop Police Department turns over tends to reveal other stones, so the BPD has to take the investigation where it leads them. Now, the Bishop Police Department has a responsibility to be thorough in determining the loss and the potential array of crimes committed, and the press release says also has a responsibility to ensure that anyone who may have been involved or knowingly benefited from the theft is also held accountable. The Bishop Police Department is continuing to conduct interviews and examine records in an attempt to conclude this investigation and to identify or eliminate other potential suspects. Now, the press release states that throughout the investigation, the Bishop Police Department has maintained contact with the victims to help them understand the amount of time involved and to assure them that the Bishop Police Department is continuing to pursue it to conclusion. Additional information will be released at the appropriate time as the investigation continues, and that press release is signed by Bishop Police Chief Chris Carter. Well, Bennett Kessler filed this report. Mono County, represented by John Vallejo of the County Counsel's Office, petitioned Superior Court to set aside last February's arbitration decision in the termination of Deputy John Madrid. Now, in a tentative decision, Judge James Garbolino ruled solidly against Mono County and included several quotes in his decision highly critical of the Mono Sheriff's Department. He reaffirmed that Deputy Madrid is reinstated with back pay. Now, in a 19-page decision, Judge Garbolino declines to rehear the case, but reaffirms the arbitrator's decision with a very minor difference over a limited period of time for back pay. Now, the arbitrator had found no wrongdoing on the part of Deputy Madrid and reinstated him with full back pay. The arbitrator had said that he found, quote, serious abuse of discretion, end quote, by the Sheriff's Administration when they fired Madrid and when they called him back to sit in a chair in the lobby of the Sheriff's Department. Now, it all started in recent years, according to court documents, when Deputy Madrid filed a hostile work environment complaint that accused Sheriff's Administration of abusive behavior. Now, that complaint was never addressed, but after the sheriff's men accused Madrid of incorrectly reporting work hours and taking unwarranted pay of around $382. The arbitrator found that evidence showed that Madrid did not intend to take that money for time off and that other deputies with discrepancies in pay sheets had been informed to correct them, not fired as Madrid was. Judge Garbolino finds that Deputy Madrid's termination was the result of, quote, retaliation, and that Deputy Madrid's subsequent reassignment to the status of a greeter was made solely for the purpose of administering punishment without legal or factual justification, end quote. Judge Garbolino's decision recites Madrid's record as a 12-year Marine and qualified deputy with numerous duties and skills. Said the judge, quote, the record supports the conclusion that Deputy Madrid performed his job meeting and exceeding expectations, end quote. Now, the judge notes that Sheriff Rick Scholl had called Deputy Madrid back after firing him to make him work as a greeter as a form of punishment. The judge's decision said there was evidence in the record that, quote, certain department managers were looking for an excuse to have Madrid fired and were harassing Deputy Madrid, end quote. Now, in footnotes of his decision, Judge Garbolino tells how Lieutenant O'Hara made comments that his, quote, goal was to fire 3 deputies, including John Madrid, end quote. Now, Madrid filed a workplace harassment claim against O'Hara in 2011, according to the judge. The complaint then went to then Undersheriff Ralph Obenberger. After that, according to the judge, Madrid was accused of falsifying his payroll records. The judge also said that Undersheriff Obenberger indicated that he would not pursue Madrid's harassment claim and that it would go away if Madrid resigned. The judge further stated that when the undersheriff handed Madrid his notice of administrative leave, Madrid asked him again about the harassment claim. And the quote from the judge is, to which the undersheriff replied, how the blank should I know, end quote. Again, this according to Judge Garbolino, who was quoting court records. Now, the decision says 6 months later, Madrid was called back to sit in a chair with no uniform, badge, or weapon. The judge said, quote, his assigned duties were lesser than those of a Walmart greeter, end quote. Now, the judge ruled against Mono County's petition that tried to assert that the former arbitrator exceeded his scope of jurisdiction and in favor of Deputy Madrid with a minor difference in back pay. Madrid was also awarded costs and attorney's fees. Now, in a related matter, former Deputy Madrid has also filed a suit against Mono County in federal court. Now, reports indicated that Sheriff Obenberger attempted to be removed from that case, but the court denied that request. And Bennett Kessler also filed this story. In a lengthy hearing in Mammoth Court last week, attorney Doug Buchanan won a motion to suppress evidence seized in a traffic stop by Mono County Sheriff's officers. Now, the district attorney's office will consider whether or not to appeal. Now, this is the case of Yusuf Balalam. Details of this case went public when attorney Alan Berry filed a claim against Mono County alleging violations of civil and constitutional rights surrounding the traffic stop of Balalam and the search of his vehicle. The officers claim they thought the man was under the influence, but did not investigate that claim when they stopped him. The officers instead searched his car and seized 2 guns, according to the claim filed, and as is evident on the officers' dash cam DVD of the arrest. Now, the district attorney's office filed a misdemeanor charge of carrying a loaded firearm in a vehicle. Attorneys Doug Buchanan and Alan Berry filed a motion to suppress the firearm evidence based on the claim that there was no probable cause to stop their client and to search his car. Buchanan argued for the motion. Assistant District Attorney David Anderson argued against it, and the issue was heard by Judge Mark Magid. The judge granted the motion to suppress the evidence. It was reported that Mr. Anderson said the DA's office would consider if the decision would be appealed. Now, in the matter of the claim filed against Mono County, the Mono County Board of Supervisors recently rejected it, as we reported last week. We'll be back with more news.